Hey, so welcome to day 2 of Mindful Moments for Wellbeing. And yesterday we focused on the body, and body scanning, body sensing is in a way of moving from tension potentially to relaxation. One of the ways I often use the body scanning work is actually if I can't get to sleep or if I wake up in the night. I find that's probably the best one for me, rather than necessarily using the breathing, which we'll be using today. So we're focusing on the power of the breath. And there's so many different ways we could look at that, but we're going to focus on the breath, particularly the natural course of the breath, the flow of the breath, to remind us that we do have this possibility, might not always feel very easy, that we can follow our thoughts and our minds without getting completely engrossed and emotionally charged about it. And part of this work is to focus on actually responding to life rather than always reacting. And we know we do a bit of both. But are there options for us to increase that way? Well, actually, I'll pause for a moment and I'll make a response rather than, there's just a response. And that's the responses, or the reactions are often something that's triggering us. Yeah, we trigger each other, we trigger ourselves, and we get triggered quite easily emotionally. Most of us, we've got some little buttons that can be pressed. Okay, so if you're happy to find a place to sit, we will go through a practice over the next 5 or 6 minutes. So these are all short, brief sessions. So finding your seat and feeling the feet on the floor or whatever's contacting the floor, and whatever you're sitting on. So feel your bum and your back against any support that you've got. Or if not, just feeling the ground that's supporting you. If you're comfortable with the idea of closing your eyes, then close your eyes. You don't really need to see me. It's more about the voice, hopefully. So either close your eyes or just lower your gaze. Otherwise, just get distractions, extra distractions. So it's just a way of coming into the practice a little bit more. So once we've got that sense of the body and the body sitting, however it's sitting, and that kind of sense that we had yesterday, how are we sitting, how are we feeling in the body, could we come to a place of greater relaxation? And if we could, we try and get into that more relaxed state, just so a little bit more open to the practice itself. So if you wish to, you could take a slightly deeper breath. So breathing in through the nostrils and maybe breathing out through the mouth. To just kind of fully arrive, whatever that might mean. And then let the breath be. Let the breath be, even though it's going to be our focus. We want to just allow it to do whatever it does. So one of the clever things about the breath, luckily, is it looks after itself. Yeah, it just works automatically. We breathe in and we breathe out without having any intention to do so. And we can also change the breath if we want to. So it's a great kind of resource. It's freely available. So tuning into your breath now. So what I mean by that is, how can we feel a sense of the breath in the body? How can we experience the flow of the breath, and ideally the natural flow of the breath, rather than trying to play around with it? So part of this idea is to take the focus away from maybe the chattering mind into something else. So we need to give it a focus, and the focus is the breath in and the breath out. And for most of us, not everybody, that's most easily felt in the belly. And if you're not sure, or you're kind of new to this, then you can put one hand on the belly to just feel the movement, which won't be huge, because we're not just run around and tired ourselves out. We're sitting a while. So usually the breath is fairly quiet. And we're just interested in that flow, in that kind of sense of life in that body, the sense of movement, even within the stillness of the body sitting. And we're just trying to follow that. You know, what does the in-breath feel like in the body? And what does the out-breath feel like in the body? Do we get kind of attached to one part of the breath more than the other? Do we feel the breath as being in two parts, the inhale and the exhale? Or do we feel the breath more as a whole? It is the breath flowing through us. So sometimes we need to have a variety of ways of coming into the breath, just to keep that focus away from the chattering mind. So taking your attention more to the ribs, the side of the ribs, and seeing if you can feel any movement, have a sense of the breath around where the diaphragm is in the center of the body, any sense of movement outwards through the rib cage, through the side body. So you're just looking for it, you're not trying to make it happen. Obviously things change. So what we're trying to do here is become a really good observer, and an observer without judgment. You know, I'm breathing really well, I'm breathing really badly. What's going on? So rather than those questions, can we just observe it? Can we just notice it? Can we just be a witness? So you can even change your perspective. Rather than you breathing, you could see how it feels to be breathed. Yeah, so it's a natural process that's going on, and you're being breathed. So it's something you can pay attention to. And it's something you can give up that idea of controlling. Yeah, we're kind of quite controlling people, most of us, in some shape or form. Could we start wanting to control the breath and just take it as it is? Okay, so one further suggestion in terms of making sense of the breath. Is it possible to feel the breath coming through the nostrils? So it's more subtle for most of us. So if that's difficult, please go back to a sense of the breath in the torso, whether that be in the rib cage, in the belly, in the whole of the torso. But if you can take your attention to that really specific area where the breath comes in and the breath goes out, and just see if you can get a sense of the nostrils having that maybe change in temperature as the breath comes in and the breath goes out. Again, it might be really subtle, so just giving that extra attention if you can to feel the subtlety. And remembering that mindfulness practice is about just coming back to the focus. So that's the practice. It's not about I can't clear my mind or I can't stop thinking. We never do. But we can bring our focus back. And every time we remember to bring our focus back to the breath, to do our best to find it interesting as we can, to recognize how powerful a thing it is, how it connects us to everything, and how it can bring us health. Yeah, just the simple quality of the breath. Just observing, witnessing the flow of the breath. never quite the same. So one even more subtle thing we could do, but again, don't worry about this if you'd rather stick with one of the other areas. You may notice, again, it's really subtle, that there's a really small pause between the in-breath and the out-breath. So just following the whole of the in-breath and just noticing or looking out for that moment of quiet or pause before the out-breath comes into your attention. So you may only notice at the end of the in-breath, you may only notice at the end of the out-breath. You may be partly creating the pause by kind of looking out for it. Just being interested in that possibility of a pause in the breath. And then again, back to just a sense of the full breath, the flowing breath. And feeling that in as much as the body as you can feel it in, the front of the body, the back of the body, maybe the whole of the torso. Maybe recognize the whole of the body has an impact from the breath. Might be subtle, might need to be imagined. And again, feeling the sense of the body. So a sense of any contact points with the ground or the chair. And noticing at the same time of noticing the body that you can notice the breath. So there's a stillness more or less of the body, and there's the flow of the breath. And then just moving the toes or the fingers or both, and maybe moving the head slightly and opening the eyes if the eyes are closed, and just taking in the light and the room, the space. And again, just a bigger breath maybe, or a deeper breath for a moment. Okay, so just endless things you can do with the breath in terms of mindfulness and other supports for good health. But I'll just remind you about one thing. I'll suggest one other thing. So in terms of bringing the breathing practice into your everyday, one thing that's quite useful in terms of getting that pause between reacting and responding is when you know you're on that edge or you're in a kind of react mode, you can slow the breath down. So you can breathe in through the nostrils for the count of 4, and you can breathe out through pursed lips for a count of 8, yeah, and it just starts to change things, yeah, really quick. You don't need to do it a few times, and suddenly you're not kind of chasing the thoughts and the anger or the frustration or whatever. It doesn't mean that isn't really a positive anger sometimes, but it doesn't mean we can't still take a pause and a break. Okay, folks, I've kept you longer than the 10 minutes as usual, so thank you for coming. And tomorrow's practice is 7:15 a.m. So I know some of you will be working or away or whatever, other things on. But if you want to join, you're very welcome. If you need the recording, that will be available. So thank you very much. Have a lovely sunny evening, a good sleep, and maybe see some of you in the morning. Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye.